Hello, welcome back to another video, guys. This is going to be a little bit of a different video, and the topic I want to cover today is probably what you saw as the title of this video, and that is that GameStop, from my understanding, is getting back into retro video games. I just kind of want to discuss what I believe this means for the hobby, what it might mean for your local game store, and what it might mean for you as a collector. If you use the discount code YouTube10, you get 10% off of your order at our website at retronextdoor.com. We try to have our video game inventory uploaded to our website. We're still in the process of uploading all of it, but here you can see some of our 64 stuff. We're not skimping out on our high-end stuff, but yeah, YouTube10, you'll get 10% off your whole order. It really does help the store, and we appreciate it a lot. So some of you might be saying, like, haven't they always been in the retro? Or I don't know, maybe you've like looked at their trade list recently and been like, haven't they been stepping away from retro? Well, for those of you that don't know, I own a couple retro video game stores in the state of Oregon, and part of our success was that we are on very good terms with GameStop. Honestly, I don't really view them as competition. They kind of cover completely different sectors as us, and we're like on very good terms, you know, kind of like I scratch their back, they scratch my back. I like help them meet their metrics, and they in turn send people to my store when someone's looking for old stuff since they don't carry it. Well, about last week, sometime around last week, I went in and one of the workers was like, hey, like, I'm sorry to tell you, but we're going to put you out of business. And it was a joke, you know, I kind of was just like, huh, what do you mean about that? And she clarified and told me that GameStop apparently is going into a retro game initiative. And obviously she didn't know too much. She told me that their district manager had just told them about it, and that was basically all she knew. She didn't know when they were going to roll it out or anything. But when I returned to GameStop about 3 days later, I saw the manager, and I was talking with the manager, and I was like, hey, like, is it true that you guys are getting back into retro video games? And the manager was like, yeah, that's actually something I wanted to, like, mention to you, because, you know, obviously that potentially could impact my business depending on how things go. But I want to talk about why I think it won't necessarily impact my business and what I actually think will come of this. About everything that they're supposedly going to be taking. So it's for sure not something made up, and I have seen evidence to show me that it is coming back, and it is something GameStop will be pursuing probably in probably a couple months. I don't know how heavily they're going to start into it. I kind of was looking at their like trade page the other day, and I saw that they started taking some stuff, but it seems like they haven't like scaled it to the full scope of what that paper was going to say that what they were going to do. So what I was able to gather from it was basically they are getting back into it, and it's not actually as narrow as I originally would have thought it was. So they are going to be taking stuff like PSP, PS Vita, Genesis. Obviously they took these way back when, but they haven't been taking them for a while. As far as I can tell, this is only games. They will not be taking any consoles, any controllers, and that is a pretty big thing when we're talking about like retro video games, because like obviously like someone can see a game that they grew up with and they'll be like, whoa, I really want to play that. And if GameStop doesn't have the console, that's where I think it kind of does benefit retro video game stores, because obviously there will still be a market for us, or like, you know, like a certain like niche for us to like assist people with what they want to purchase. But I will talk into all the details I have about this initiative, but they are going to be taking everything, obviously, just like they did before when they got into retro stuff. They do have some pretty strict stuff when it comes to cartridges. So when it comes to cartridges, the cartridge can't be like torn up, the label can't be completely gone. I don't know to what level it can be torn up. Obviously that's probably going to vary from sales associate to sales associate, but yeah, it's definitely something interesting to like realize that they're getting back into. Honestly, this whole time I've been thinking like if GameStop was struggling as like a corporation, they probably should be venturing into retro video games, and so I'm not too surprised that they're going back into it, but definitely it was a little bit sudden. So basically when I was talking to the manager, I kind of was just asking, so like, are you going to sell it in store? Like, what is going on with that? And she told me that basically they are only allowed to keep Xbox 360, PS3, and Nintendo Wii and Wii U in the store. So that's basically how it's been this whole time. So whenever they got like some, because they for a long time they did have a very small GameCube list of stuff they were taking, and most stores would be obligated to send it back to the warehouse if it was ever like taking it on trade or whatever. So some stores follow this, some stores don't follow this. Here in Oregon, I have experience with some stores not following it. I love those stores, they always hook us up, but obviously more stores than not actually do follow those guidelines. And so that's when it becomes a little bit interesting, because it's like, so they're taking it, but it's probably not going to be advertised super well that they're taking it. For years, they've been telling people they don't take it. So this is kind of like, like how much of it are they really going to be able to take if like they don't necessarily hit the marketing of it super hard and well? Because like I feel like there's probably some people, oh yes, I'm sure some people still do take their old stuff to GameStop. I'm sure, 100% sure of that. But I'm sure a lot of people already kind of know that they don't take that stuff. So them not having the super old stuff in store definitely is not going to help them in terms of getting more inventory. And another thing is, I don't necessarily like how it's only going to be like all the cool stuff is sold online. You know, PlayStation 1, probably those PSP hand or the Sony handhelds, PS2, GameCube, N64, Super, all of that's going to be sold primarily online. And if you guys don't have any experience with buying retro video games from the GameStop website, it's actually really challenging unless you're always checking that website. I was able to hit on one restock back before I opened my store. I want to say it was about like December of 21, and I was able to get a lot of stuff. I remember they had like a lot of cool stuff. They had Pokemons in stock. They had like basically every N64 game you would want. I got so many Smash Bros. I got so many Zeldas. I got a Gold Card Ocarina. That was actually pretty cool. But yeah, like they had so much stuff in stock, and it was just kind of crazy. But the thing is, like, that happened once in probably the whole year that I was checking it, because it doesn't happen often. The Pokemon restocks on like DS games do happen often, but the actual retro stuff doesn't happen every day. And so it just kind of makes me wonder, like, what is it gonna look like when they actually venture back into retro games? Because come on, at the end of the day, it is business. GameStop is a massive corporation. They do have the power to be bringing in so many more games. Like, if they optimized it well, they could probably put every retro game store out of business, or at least like very much cripple every retro video game store. But the thing is, like, they're probably only going to be taking the top of the top stuff. You know, like, let's just hit on GameCube's a bad example, just because personally speaking, I think GameCube is very like top heavy in terms of like what's good on the console and what's not. But let's hit on like PS2. So PS2, are they going to take my Budokai 3? Yeah, probably. Or my Budokai Tenkaichi 3? Yeah, probably. Are they going to take my Def Jam? Yeah, probably. Real question, are they going to take my Ratchet and Clanks though? Probably not. And the thing is, it's like, a lot of people, from what I've seen at my stores, Ratchet and Clanks move a lot better than us for like Def Jam or Tenkaichi 3. Obviously, the price point is a lot more reasonable for people, but generally speaking, like, most people grew up playing the common games, not like some $1,000 PS2 game. You know, like, it's not like most people grew up playing Rules of Rose or Obscure, you know? So it makes me just kind of wonder, like, how much they're gonna be taking. That's like the biggest thing that I am curious about, and I've seen it a little bit on their GameCube page. Like, I know they're taking stuff like Cubivore and other things like that, but yeah, I'm like definitely curious to see what all they'll be taking in terms of like kind of like price points on games. So do I think this will personally affect your local retro video game store or myself per se? Not necessarily. I think they're not going to optimize it super well. I don't think the head of the company really like understands retro video games super well. Like, obviously, I'm not saying it's impossible for them to learn, but definitely at the beginning, I don't see them posing a threat to your local retro video game stores. But the main thing I would take away from this is there's probably going to be an influx of fakes. You know, obviously, like, some people at the store might tell the customers, like, hey, like, we don't have this in store, but you can buy it online. And you guys know how it is with GameStop. They're not trained to know retro video games like a retro video game store is. You know, there's a lot of fake Mario Karts, there's a lot of fake Pokemons, there's a lot of fake, well, Harvest Moons for the Super Nintendo 64, I'm pretty sure too. You know, there's a lot of fakes. And so what we might see happen is there might be an influx of fakes going into circulation. You know, like, it might be more normal for someone to be selling a fake Smash Bros for the 64 locally on Facebook Marketplace. It might be more of a common occurrence for a retro video game store like myself to actually be having people bring me fake stuff and then being like, obviously they wouldn't know. You know, not every normal consumer knows the difference between a fake cartridge and a real cartridge, and that's perfectly fine. You know, like, the hobby is open to all walks of life. But I do think that this will eventually lead to there just being an influx of fakes in the market. Obviously, like, I don't know 100%, but definitely there will be some people trying to cheese GameStop and like try to get one up on them. So I do imagine a situation like that. I think aside from that, it could be an excellent experience for the consumer. You know, if they're able to get in plenty of stock on their website and it isn't like this complete random situation where you might check and you find a bunch of stuff. Like, if it's actually like they're able to keep the stock good, you're able to go on a random Wednesday, any time of the day on Wednesday, and you can get whatever you want, that's going to be fantastic for the consumer. Come on, GameStop runs, they're always running buy two get ones. Think about that. You can get buy two get ones on like GameCube games. Obviously, yeah, they might not be CIB, but that's the gamble you take, you know, like. you're getting a good price on it on some games, not all games. On some games you definitely are. So I'm definitely curious to see just like how stocked they will be, and if they're able to maintain the stock and not have it too bad of a situation with how many fakes they have on hand. I do genuinely think this will be a positive experience for the consumer, because you'll be able to get games for cheaper. Probably you'll be able to get games somewhat conveniently, because sometimes like most retro stores aren't able to keep Mario Party 5 in stock. Like that game goes pretty quick when most of us get it in. Or like, let's say Mario Strikers, or we don't see Fire Emblems roll through too often. Like, so GameStop, maybe they'll be able to fill in that void and like really help on the consumer side of like how it is to collect and the annoyances of collecting. Another big thing is like GameStop is gonna take care of you if something goes wrong, if you get a fake, if it doesn't work, if you have some negative experience. Like, they're a massive corporation, you don't have to worry about them not making it right with you. Most of the time, at least from my experience with managers and workers, they've always treated me very amazingly. Like, if there's been a genuine issue, it gets sorted out very quickly, very easily. Obviously the 1-800 number can be very annoying, but in terms of in-store personnel, I know a lot of people like to hate on them, but they genuinely just try to do the best that they can. Obviously some stuff is like out of their power. The amount of money they offer you for your Switch games, they don't pick any of that. That's all corporate stuff. There's someone at some desk analyzing prices and thinking, like, statistically speaking, this is the most we should be paying for this game because we want to optimize our margins and stuff. Like at the end of the day, GameStop sells so much like new products. Like, their margins on new products really aren't high, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm a sympathizer with them, but when you like are actually thinking of the economics of a business, it does make sense on why they offer what they offer. Yeah, sometimes it can be egregiously low, but like they probably have a fat overhead. They probably just have so much money stuck in like new inventory that they're always having to discount. Like, them having, let's say, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, potentially that might go on sale on Black Friday, and guess what? They probably, if it goes on sale, they're going to be taking a hit on that. They're probably going to be losing money on it, because even though they're a massive corporation, they're still not getting it for that cheap. But overall, to summarize, I think this is going to be overall a positive for everyone. I think for video game stores, this might get more people into the hobby. It might get more people excited about collecting for retro video games, because from what I can feel from my customers in 2023, a lot of them aren't happy with the prices, and I don't think any of us are happy with the prices. Like, some of these prices are starting to get ridiculous, and they haven't adjusted. And I do think there's this whole stigma of like the prices not coming down, and I have my own philosophy that like there's so many people that bought into these games so high now, and they're aware of what the prices are now. Like, it maybe, I don't know, I wasn't so into this hobby like 7 years ago, but maybe 7 years ago it was normal for people to not have any clue that their old Nintendo games were worth money. But I feel like now a lot of people know. I've had moms walk into the store and literally tell me, I know what this stuff is worth, I've looked it up on eBay. Like, just consumer awareness is at an all-time high. So maybe GameStop can help us like just get games more affordably. Maybe things are a little bit different for me being on the West Coast. I do feel the West Coast is like a massive retro video game hub compared to some other parts of the US. Maybe down in the South or the Midwest, like GameStops will be getting in troves and troves of retro video games. Like I said, that will ultimately help the hobby. I think it'll just make consumers happier, get more people into the hobby. We already know they're not going to be selling controllers and consoles, and I'll be honest, controllers are one of the most popular things that we as a retro video game store move. Controllers and cables, people always need them. We can never keep them in stock. So I think there's still going to be a perfectly good spot for us. GameStop's probably not going to carry too much of like the Ratchet and Clanks, Shark Tale, I don't know, Finding Nemo. People buy those games, like maybe as someone that's watching retro video game videos, you don't think that many people are buying Finding Nemo, but like it literally does happen. We'll have people walk in and buy all the movie games they had growing up. It's like people just want to relive their childhood. So I think it's good for retro video game stores overall. Maybe like a little bit of a hit on us, maybe like we're not gonna be having GameStop send us all the great stuff like they did in the past. Well, they're already kind of like taking the better stuff. It was rare for them to say like they wouldn't take something. Like maybe we get less, I don't know, N64 games or something like that, Super Nintendo games, but they were already kind of taking like so much of the great stuff that I feel like there's not going to be too much of a difference. So for consumers, I think it's a plus. For retro video game stores, either it's a plus or it's just kind of like, like I just don't see how it's going to affect us too much. I could be completely wrong. Maybe it'll be out of business in a year, and this will be like, wow, I was completely wrong on what I thought about this whole situation. But yeah, I just thought I'd inform you guys of what I had heard from people that work at GameStop and a manager, and like I said, I saw the paper firsthand. But yeah, thank you so much for checking out the video, guys. Hopefully you're able to get some sick deals when they actually do start uploading that stuff to the website. And one tiny thing, I was told by the manager, maybe when the warehouse fills up, that they will be allowed to sell that stuff in store. Maybe. Honestly, I don't see that happening. I don't think the warehouse will ever fill up to the point where they can keep up with demand. You guys know how the retro video game scene is right now. But, you know, we could be hopeful. Or if you're lucky, maybe your local store just doesn't send the stuff back. But yeah, good luck going to your GameStop and finding some crazy deals. And thank you for watching the video.